Echoey.
Awesome. Now we got it going.
All right. Are we connected?
I think so.
Great. Well, hello, everyone out in Facebook land. We have two great groups today, 50 plus and fabulous, and 50 a life redesigned. And we're also streaming to our Purse Strings LinkedIn group. So this is very exciting. And as many of you may know, our topic this month, although we address all financial concerns all the time, our focus this month is on leaving corporate or leaving the workforce. And I'm telling you, everything I pick up, everything I scroll, everything I see on TV is about the Great Recession or she session or women leaving the workforce or, everyone's wondering, how is this happening, with unemployment and COVID still going, somewhat strong out there. People are still catching it and being careful, but still catching it. Um, all these changes that are happening in the workforce. However, there's so much gig economy out there too, right? There's so many opportunities that we've learned during COVID on how to make some money just working from our computers. So lots of things are changing. I don't think we're going to go back to where we were pre-COVID. It's kind of an exciting time. And so this month we're focusing on leaving corporate or leaving the workforce, which many, 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 many women have done for lots of different reasons. Some are going to start their families, some are going to start a new job, some of them are going to build their own business. It's very, very exciting time. And some of them are going to cobble together a few probably different opportunities, right? Which you can do now. It's kind of exciting. So today we're bringing Stephanie to you. As many people know at Purse Strings, we provide free online tools and resources for women so that they have a one-stop shop to go to for all things financial. So if you want to learn something or read up on something or you have a question, just come to Purse Strings CO, or join our Facebook group, ask a question there. And what we also do is provide you a whole cadre of top-tier financial professionals who know how to serve a female market. So these are people who are going to listen to you, answer your questions, ask you what your concerns are, and really address your needs. And Stephanie is one of our Purse Strings approved professionals, and we're so glad that she's joined us here today. Maggie, do you want to take it away from here?
Yeah, we could just jump in and get started. So we're so excited to have Stephanie here today. She does financial planning for professional women over 45, Gen X, and Boomer women who want to be sure they're being smart with their money, and those are her kind of people. That's what I got. Sometimes you get stuck in your own head facing money choices, but she helps you through a non-judgmental, holistic collaboration, so she can really be your partner in this decision making. So there's no minimums, no product pushing. She's just there to support you and help you along the way, and direct you in what you might need, if that's insurance or other different things. And she's here to rock us out today.
Yeah.
So that's your intro. There we go.
So I'm going to try to share my screen. Shall we go for that?
Oh yeah, I'll give you the floor.
All right, let's see. Share screen. Hopefully it'll share the right one. We want this one, and then we want that. Oh dear. Maggie, no, that doesn't look right. Maggie, can you tell me if we're seeing the right thing? Are we seeing the slide?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool. All right. I'm so happy to be here with you, kind of virtually, sitting alone in my desk, but with you. So yeah, when Barb and Maggie told me the theme for the month was leaving corporate, I thought, ooh, I've got so many women I know, clients who have kind of gone through this decision-making process, whether it's, voluntary or forced by circumstances, the need to become a caregiver or to do other things that aren't letting them go to an office full time. So obviously, there's a lot of factors with the decision. Money's not the only one, but unfortunately money is one of them. So that's what we're going to talk through a bit today. So what I like to think about is kind of redefining, reclaiming this term retirement. And in fact, I started a podcast last year and I call it Take Back Retirement. And part of that is kind of redefining the word, right? I don't really love kind of the traditional idea of retirement because most of the women I talk to, they want to remain active, engaged, making a difference in the world. You want to keep up, joy, health, companionship, intimacy. Maybe it's just a change to how we're doing it or how hard we're working. Sometimes I like the term reinvention, right? How can we reinvent what's going on? And of course, in the planning, money should not be the most important consideration. And yet we have to acknowledge that that's the reality of the world we live in, right? Money is important. If you were able to live off the land, grow your own food, preserve your own food, make your own clothing, fix your own plumbing, maybe money is less important. But I sadly have none of those skills. So I need some cash. But of course, we have to factor some other issues into the conversation, right? What does bring us joy? What gives us energy? What gives us fulfillment? How are our relationships going to be affected either by the career we've got now or the next chapter that we're thinking about? What about our own health, physical and mental health, right? Careers, jobs, they take a toll, both physically and mentally. All of this should be part of the equation. And today, because I'm a financial planner, we're going to talk about the money stuff, but I'm also a holistic financial planner, so we're going to talk about the other stuff too. So who the heck am I? Why am I qualified to come talk to you about this stuff today? My name is Stephanie McCullough. As Maggie mentioned, I am the founder of Sophia Financial. I've been a financial advisor 24 years now, and I'll tell you, when I first started, I actually didn't believe I could do this job. I didn't have an MBA. Did not have a sales bone in my body. And when I realized that that's kind of what a lot of financial advisors do, I was like, oh, I can't do that work. But I discovered over time that I understood this stuff. I'm decent at explaining it, but what I really love is listening to people's stories, especially working with women, empathizing with the situation, really connecting one-on-one and collaborating, right? Figuring out, okay, this is this woman's situation and story and what she's trying to achieve. Okay, this is the financial world. I speak the language. I kind of know, the bumps in the road, the potential pitfalls, the tools we can use, and together we form a plan to help this woman achieve what she's looking for. It's all about reducing that money stress so that you can get on with your future and really take control. So what I've discovered in my 24 years of doing this work is that women on the whole, more often than men, in my experience, tend to avoid these money topics. And, I think it's partly because it brings up uncomfortable feelings, shame, guilt, embarrassment. We feel like on the one hand that we should know this stuff, which is baloney, by the way, because no one teaches us. And most often our family doesn't talk about it. Also, we feel like we should have done better in the past with whatever it was, right? We should be better with money. But like I said, no one teaches us this stuff. Human beings are bad at finances. I have a whole talk on that, right? There is a whole body of study called behavioral finance proving that human beings are bad with money. So we got to take some of that, burden off of our shoulders. And also it's the last taboo. We're not supposed to talk about it. My belief is that you don't actually need to know all the answers. What we need to do is equip ourselves with the questions. We got to figure out what questions to ask. And then we have to have the guts to ask them. And I believe that's where community comes in, and talking with your friends and leaning on them, together, maybe learning, researching, and then getting out there and asking the questions. So my plan today is to equip you with a few of the essential questions to ask if you're planning some kind of reinvention or if it's being thrust upon you by life. I'm going to assume that, maybe you have a plan or you're thinking about what you might do, or maybe you've got a range of options. Maybe you're deciding between plan A, plan B, plan C, or maybe you're even wondering if this is even feasible, right? To start to dream about what the next step might be. So I'm going to talk you through some of the things to consider to figure out if you're financially ready or how to get yourself to the point where you're financially ready. So step one, I'm afraid there's just no way of getting around looking at what life costs you? Where's your money going now? What are you spending money on? And I'll tell you, a lot of women feel uncomfortable with this. There's some unspoken internal or presumed external judgment going on, right? Of how many dollars we have, of where we're sending them, where we're spending them. It's one of the reasons that we don't talk about the money stuff, because, we might have absorbed someone else's voices in our head, like, your grandfather or a parent or someone who told you you're bad with money, or you're bad at math, or, you'll never be able to do this stuff. Or it just might be, there might be some evidence that maybe you're spending more than you should, right? A credit card balance that you're carrying, or some debt that has built up, or, just kind of that knowledge that maybe you're stretching a little bit beyond your means. But even if not, in my experience, women who are not even getting close to that still have this self-judgment. The numbers on the page are not judging you. We need to give ourselves some grace, be compassionate with ourselves, understand we're going to be feeling some feelings, and that's okay. And we kind of have to push through it and get to look at the numbers, right? If we can kind of take on the scientist perspective, right? The curiosity, like, okay, what are my numbers? What's going on here? And what is that going to tell me? That's much more empowering than, oh my gosh, I can't believe I only have that much in my 401k, or I can't believe I spent that much at Nordstrom, whatever it might be, right? We got to try to put that self-judgment and self-blame, behind us. So what we're trying to figure out is our burn rate, or our run rate, kind of like what life costs on a monthly basis. And if you're in a household with multiple income earners at the moment, right, how much of it is covered by your income? So, it's, when I talk to people about, how much life costs you, they start adding up. Well, there's this, there's the mortgage, there's the cell phone bill, there's this, but it's hard to do it in your head. You really got to look at the evidence, got to look at those statements, look at where the dollars are coming from, because we forget things. We tend to underestimate when we start to do it mentally. So you got to look at it, write it all down. And then the other key thing is not to forget the things that come up less than monthly, right? Vacations, holidays, and birthdays, maybe your homeowner's insurance you pay once or twice a year, property taxes, all that kind of stuff, right? You need to think about it. Maybe it's really important to you to give your kids a nice birthday present, or you want to try to help send your nephew to baseball camp, whatever it might be, add that into the mix. And then the next step is to think about, okay, this is what I'm spending now. What's my bare minimum? If I were forced to cut back to kind of the bare bones, right? What one of my clients calls her ramen noodle budget. This is not how you want to live. And I'm not telling you have to live this way, but it's kind of a theoretical exercise, right? If you did have to cut all the discretionary stuff and just keep those super essentials, what's that number? It's just a useful piece of information to have going into this next chapter, into this reinvention, right? If things go sour, if things turn against you, if, bad luck starts to pile up, what could you squeak by on? So it is also helpful, when you're doing this, eliminating what is not in the ramen noodle budget, think about how willing are you to maybe get a little closer to that ramen noodle budget, right? If this dream, or if this next chapter is super important to you, or if it's, not a choice, where are you kind of in that spectrum of everything's essential, or these things I could cut if I needed to? That's a helpful step to think through now, and it's going to come in handy later in the process. So that number one is, what's life costing you now, and what are the bare bones, just as an exercise. So then the next step is, what do you have? What have you got, in terms of financial resources to call upon now? So this is actually two pieces. One is assets. So, and actually, I'll tell you, this is a good exercise to do no matter where you are in life. And again, another one that people tend to avoid. It's kind of your balance sheet, right? Your net worth. You're going to line up your assets, but also you want to look at your liabilities, which means debts, the things that you owe to people. Some people call it, the things you own are your assets, and the things that you owe are your liabilities. And again, if you're part of a couple, maybe consider only what you would have access to, or that what you would be expected to cover on the debts side. By the way, if there is a partner in the picture, you definitely want to have a conversation with them. How willing are they to support you in this next chapter? Are they on board? Not only the dollars, but psychological support, moral support, right? That can be really helpful as well. So what do you have in terms of assets? Maybe you've got some bank accounts and an IRA or a 401k, right? Get that all down, get your arms around that. And then what do you have in terms of income? So income that you might be making now, income that's coming into the household from other sources, as well as maybe, future income, right? Maybe down the road, you're eligible for Social Security. Okay. At what age are you eligible for your full benefit? What's the earliest you could claim? By the way, that's usually 62. Unless you're a widow, then it might be 60. So understanding those, maybe you have other income sources as well, right? I have clients who work for a municipal government. They've got a pension plan. Some folks who work for a hospital might have a pension plan. If you worked for a corporation for a long time, you might have a pension plan that was frozen a number of years ago, but you're still eligible for something. So understanding what gets turned on, how much income comes, and when it starts, right? At what age? And for now, when we're talking about income, we're going to leave aside what you might make in this next chapter. So step 3, what's this new thing going to cost you? Is your reinvention going to take some money? Or, do you need to make an investment in this new venture, right? Maybe training or certification, maybe supplies or equipment, software, subscriptions, a new laptop, membership, networking, building a website, whatever it might be that you're looking at, are you going to need to make an upfront investment in it? And if you're moving into a new field and you don't really know the answers, you could find some people to ask, right? Lean on some connections, right? Go into the Purse Strings Facebook group and ask them. Go into the Facebook groups that you're members of now. Hey, is anyone else an executive coach? What were your startup costs when you first made the change, right? That's really helpful information. Remember those informational interviews we did back when we were in college? Like, take that approach again. See, who can be friendly and give you some useful information. So you're trying to figure out what your startup costs would be. And then also, how much might it take you to stay in business, right? Do you need a phone service subscription? Do you need a physical location? Do you have to pay some rent? Are there ongoing subscriptions that you'll need, or memberships or website services and that kind of stuff? And then in the beginning, where's that money going to come from? Are you going to tap your savings for some of that? Are you going to use a loan? Are you going to try to borrow some money from a bank, from a friend? Remember, you got to factor in those interest payments into what life's going to cost you going forward after the loan goes into place. If you need to, are you going to need to cut something in your current budget to pay those loan payments, right? I would advise, try to avoid using credit cards for this kind of stuff, because the interest rates are just so cripplingly high. And if interest rates start to go up, on the Federal Reserve and the economy level, your credit card interest rates will go up too. So that's not great. If you're in the luxurious situation of planning ahead for this, you might use this information of your startup costs and your ongoing expense to run the new chapter. Try to save up for that ahead of time if you can, if that's an option. So now we got to do some math time, right? We figured out what assets we have to call upon and then what things are going to cost us. So now we're going to calculate what's called your runway. So it's really your savings that you're willing to use, right? They're willing to kind of go through to get this next chapter started, minus any startup costs, divided by that monthly burn rate. And this is when you start to think, ooh, okay, maybe I am willing to, get takeout less often, or maybe I can cut that. Who has a clothing budget anymore, right? We're all just buying athleisure for staying at home. But, whatever it might be that's on the discretionary side, okay, maybe I'm willing to cut a little bit of that so that my runway is longer than if I were still living at kind of my current rate, right? Are you willing to move somewhere between that current and the ramen noodle budget? And then what you're trying to figure out is how many months that you could afford to float yourself if no revenue comes in the new thing, right? And I'm not saying you have to make no revenue. Some people might be opening, starting a foundation or volunteering. All that's great. But you got to factor it into the math, right? Very often we're trying to start up something new and earn some income, but we want to be conservative with our estimates there, right? Try to be realistic on that estimate. But in the end, how many months do you have? And how does that feel to you? You might say, oh, I can float myself 3.5 months, 4 if I stretch it. Does that feel good? Does that feel a little tight? Right? And again, if you're in the position of being able to decide these things ahead of time, maybe you can make some adjustments or try to save some more before you jump. So this is a different runway, just because many of us think about, fashion show or project runway as opposed to an airplane. But so this runway number is going to help you in the decision. If you've got 0 months or very few months of runway, maybe you set a goal of building, 4 months, 6 months before you start. Or maybe you work on kind of starting up and proof of concept in your free time while you continue working in your current gig, if you've got something, a situation like that. Maybe you can do some part-time something to give you some income that will increase your revenue, right? Or increase your runway. And, some kind of side gig that will help you pay to get things going. And again, are you willing to kind of move closer to that ramen noodle budget to get you going a little bit more? I mean, sometimes it's somewhat uncomfortable conversations, right? With the family or the kids, like, hey, mom's going to be a little tight on the income for the next few months. So birthdays are going to look like this, or the holidays are going to look like that, or we might skip this. If you can get the people in your life excited about your new goal and on board, kind of get them invested a little bit, you might be able to, forgo some of the spending that usually happens. And then the last piece is, how much do you think you could make, right? And like I said, it's safest to be conservative in this estimate. It's always better to have positive surprises than the opposite. But ageism is a real thing. I know you all know that. We're in 50 plus Facebook groups here. We know that that's real. Dr. Barb mentioned the she session, right? Moving into a new field can be hard. Most likely, at least at the start, you won't be making what you were before, at least not for a while. So, thinking about that piece of it. And then don't forget benefits, right? If you really are leaving corporate, leaving some kind of a job where you've got health insurance, and you're not yet eligible for Medicare, do you have another way to get health insurance? Or if not, you have to factor that expense into your burn rate. Do a little bit of research on what that might cost if you haven't left yet. Does your spouse or partner have benefits through their work? What does that plan look like? How much might it cost, right? You got to do these research things ahead of time. But then there's other benefits a lot of people forget about, right? Often a job offers life insurance. If you have minor kids, if you have kids still yet to go through college, maybe life insurance is important. Maybe you want to get some of your own before you jump and lose that life insurance provided through work. Same with disability insurance, right? I'll tell you, it's easier to get your own disability insurance before you leave your current job, just saying. Once you're self-employed, they're going to want to see a couple of years of history of earnings before they get you disability insurance. But then other things, did you get a mileage allowance for your work, or did they cover your cell phone? Was there a bonus involved, right? You got to look at all these different pieces of it. And then saving for retirement. Did you have a match in your 401k and your corporate position? When you're going to be self-employed, that's going to go away. You're going to have different retirement savings options, but you want to factor that in as well. Definitely, I've worked with clients who have gotten to a position where they've saved quite a bit for retirement. And if they don't save any more into their retirement accounts for the next 5-10 years, they're going to be okay, right? But it's worth doing that math and trying to figure that out. I just want to make a comment about the reality of human decision making. What I've learned from my research on this area is that when we're under great stress or times of enhanced emotion, we actually lose some of our cognitive ability. So our logical thinking declines when we're in a state of high emotion. So my takeaway from that is that it's very valuable to think ahead of time of our backup plans, what we might do if things start to go sour or things don't go as we planned or as we'd hoped. It's definitely easier to implement maybe plan B, plan C, plan D, if we've already laid out the steps ahead of time, when we were able to be fully rational and logical. Where could you cut your budget? What would you let go first, second, or third? It's important to align these things with your values as well, right? Don't kind of take whatever society tells you is most important or least important, right? Can you, let go certain personal maintenance items that other people might think are essential, but maybe they're not as important to you, right? Or maybe that is super important to you to get your manicure done and you want to keep that in there as an essential expense. Awesome. I do not judge. I just ask you to think it through ahead of time to decide what's expendable and what's not. Working with a good friend or a coach or a financial planner ahead of time, I think, can be really helpful because it's easy to start spinning around in our heads and kind of get back and forth and not make forward progress on these decisions. So having someone with a little perspective, and I like the coaching approach, which is kind of asking you the questions instead of telling you the right thing. There are a lot of well-intentioned people in your life, family and friends, who might give you advice, but you're really looking for more of a thinking partner in this type of situation, in my opinion. And then we always need to think about what could go wrong. I've seen some people say that jumping without a backup plan, without a net, brings a higher likelihood of success. But I'm a planner. I'm a financial planner. Like, I kind of err on the other side, right? So thinking about it up front. What if getting this off the ground takes longer than you expect? What would you do if you got to the end of your runway, right? If you ran through your savings, maybe, are there other ways you could bring in some revenue? If you burn through that savings bank account, what would you use next? Are you willing to sell some of your investments? Are you willing to tap your IRA, individual retirement account? Is there a friend you could ask for a temporary loan? Are you willing to tap the equity in your home if you have that option? Or maybe you have a line that you won't cross, right? Some people give themselves, a set amount of time. And if it doesn't work or it's not looking like it's on track, they go to plan B. Or maybe they spend a certain amount of dollars and then they go to plan C. Whatever it might be. Again, thinking about it up front is super important. And then, we don't always get the choice. Our reinventions don't always happen on our schedule. There's been a lot of forced reinventions during 2020, 2021, right? Layoffs, downsizing, furloughs. I think it's important to always kind of have some type of reinvention plan in our back pocket. Even if we're super comfortable and happy in our corporate career, we just don't know what the future holds. So thinking ahead of time about what could I do? What might be my plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E be? So just to summarize, we're looking at first, what does life cost you? What do you have to work with? What are your assets? What are your income? What might this reinvention cost? Calculate that runway. And then how much might you make from this new chapter? And of course, what could go wrong? That's a little bit about me. When to start this, right? I mean, ideally, you start thinking about it a couple years before the reinvention, but in reality, right, why not today? It can take some time to build up these various assets, but I don't advocate looking in the rearview mirror and feeling bad about where we are, right? Let's take the empowering role of deciding, okay, today's the day I'm going to start making empowering decisions and controlling my future. And I believe, it's the past we can't change. The future is totally, not totally up to us, but largely that's where we have the power to make the decision. So make a decision today and go forward. And I wish you all the best in it. I'd certainly be more than happy to take questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, maybe.
You're all good. Just stop sharing.
Excellent.
That was wonderful. Great
Oh,
step-by-step layout. Yeah, wonderful. And I was thinking through the whole presentation how these are numbers that we should kind of look at anyways.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to kind of see where am I? How much more should I be putting towards retirement, or do I need to be, or can I start thinking about that other option?
Yeah. And I think, we so focus on putting money in our IRAs and our 401ks. Well, what if you want to start a business at 55?
Mm-hmm.
You can't tap your retirement accounts yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having some other assets that are, maybe just in the bank or maybe in an investment account that's not a retirement account with those rules around it, right, that's really helpful too. And that's something that we don't get taught as often, right? It's not emphasized to us. I'm guilty of it myself, right? Most of my stuff's in retirement account and then the bank. So, someone asked me recently, what's my big regret? I'm like, yeah, I wish I had kind of socked more away in the non-retirement.
But definitely, you also, I know you'd look at that your retirement is fully funded, and even though you can't touch it, you know that you're going to be good for the future,
Hopefully.
which is important to think about rather than just tapping in and betting on I'm going to become a billionaire and retirement will be refunded again.
Right.
That's not always a great one. But then, yeah, I just love how you're mentioning, when you try to calculate it in your head, doesn't always work, never equals out.
No. We
and
we always forget things.
Well, it seems lower, numbers always lower.
Oh yeah.
Especially those things that pop in monthly, which are not non-monthly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And those always get you. So I can see, but really overall, the whole process really shows, it really gives you an opportunity to think through that next step. Really, what am I going to do? What does that look like?
Yep.
Who do I want to be, and how do I want to go about the next chapter, which is awesome, because sometimes I think we all just like to jump and see how it goes. But you can really almost make then your plan, like how much do I spend per month on this? And then, okay, so what do I have to do per day to make these things happen?
Right. And
so
that's
really,
why I think,
I was going to say it really loads out the goal. Oh yeah, hold you accountable.
Yeah, and also research, right? Like you can blast it out there. I mean, okay, maybe I have, I don't know, 40 friends and none of them is in this new profession that I want to try out. Jump into the various Facebook groups. Hey, is anybody an occupational therapist? I'm thinking about changing and doing that. I don't have no idea what startup costs are. Oh, someone will raise their hand. There's so many generous people out there.
You learn so many highs and lows people have and things that you might have never thought of.
Right. What would you do differently if you were starting today?
And that's what, it's always so funny. We talk about at Purse Strings, us women, we always go to our community and talk about, ask for advice. That's such a female thing to do. We always feel, And
while we ask for advice, sometimes we don't ask about the money stuff, right? Because we've been taught that, it's rude to ask how much people make. So you might not say, in your first year of this new career, how much did you make? Or how much would be reasonably for me to charge for my clients, right? I think we have more of a barrier to those kind of questions. And I think we have to fight that. We got to break that down and start talking about the money.
Definitely, especially because we got to get paid up there with everybody else. And we can't cut our worth. It's a Women Equality Day for Latinx women.
Oh, finally today. Ugh.
I mean, there's not much to celebrate. It's finally today, it's 10 months in, which is, so we got to talk about it, bring up the conversation. So we're all getting paid. We're all, getting our worth. Because even though if we're just getting started and you might get less, it's not like you should get nothing.
Totally. And I think that's a common thing again with women, right? Where women chronically undercharge for their services if they're in a position of asking for fees. I've got a client who's a therapist and she's been doing it for years. She's such an expert. And when she did a little research, realized someone just out of school down the street was charging $20 more an hour. Like, and she still has a hard time asking for more, right? So
it's hard.
It's hard, and it's okay that it's hard, and we have to find a way to do it anyway.
Definitely. I won't drag us any more down that hole because we could be there all day.
Yes, that's true.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was great. I just want to touch on that little calculation you had that it's savings minus startup costs equals
savings minus startup costs divided by your monthly burn rate.
Divided by the burn rate. Okay.
Equals your runway, right? How many months can you float yourself if you earn nothing?
Okay. Yeah. I take notes so that we do have a handout for anybody that's watched this and wants to kind of capture what you've said. And it was a great, very direct way of approaching it. And as an entrepreneur myself, and you are, and Maggie is, don't be surprised. Sometimes it takes years before you make money. And so some people think, I'm going to hang out my shingle, I should make money in a month or so. Depends on what you're doing. You most likely can, right? Many times you can. Many times when you're building a brand new business from scratch, it can take several years. So if you need to have a passion, you need to have a love, and you need to, try it. I say you need to try it, but with a plan, like you've pointed out here, make sure your ducks are in a row and you understand your financials. That's really, really, really important. Yeah, this was fabulous. Great information.
Great. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Well, this was Stephanie McCullough, and she is the owner and founder of Sophia Financial. And she is more than welcome to have any of these conversations with you. So give her a call if you want. Otherwise, you could always check her out on our website, firststrings.co. And yeah, we'll have that one-page handout for you tomorrow with all the nice little equations, so everyone can just get at it.
Get out there and leave corporate and find the work that you love to do.
All right. Well, thank you. See everyone next week. Bye.
Thanks, Stephanie. Bye, everyone.